Welcome to the MBD podcast, the show where we dig into what's actually working or not when it comes to scaling businesses and the people who've been there. Today's guest, I'm going to let him introduce himself, so why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Hi, my name is Ali. I lead go-to-market at Plum AI, where we're a developer tool that helps AI engineers and product managers adopt these LLMs to specific use cases and get them to perform in a consistent, predictable, and accurate way.
Awesome. So if, AI is the trend right now, everybody's trying to jump in. So I'm a business, we're trying to get into it, and all of a sudden it's like we're building these models and like they work half the time. What should we do? How should we solve this problem to get them to work better all the time?
Yeah, so what we see in the market these days is kind of a maturity curve in terms of adopting these pre-trained LLMs like GPT, Claude, and so on. And usually it starts out as a bit of experimentation. They call it prompt and pray, or basically doing vibe checks to see how well it's doing. And then usually that works when you're in that pilot stage. But as soon as you roll it out to users that don't actually know the application, don't actually know the specific questions you asked to build the application, they start asking all these edge case questions, and you end up with an LLM that either provides the wrong answers, misses, and sometimes can even answer the same question in different ways. And so at that point, yeah, go ahead.
Or so for people who aren't quite familiar, say that I'm a business owner, I'm trying to build a team around this, or I've hired people on Offwork or Fiverr. Uh, what is can you define what an LLM is, how it incorporates into the workflow?
Sure. An LLM or a large language model, I'm sure you've played around with ChatGPT or Claude, where you have a chat assistant, you can ask it questions, and it's pretty good. Like if you ask it for a recipe, you have a couple of ingredients, you're like, hey, give me some recipe ideas, or you wanted to create some kind of poem or a song, right? They're great for that. When it comes to business applications, what ends up happening is this pre-trained LLM, which is basically a machine learning model that's built on the available data on the open internet, and turned into a conversation bot. Uh, Sometimes doesn't have the context that your business needs, or your employees have, in order to actually answer the questions that are relevant to your business in a way that makes sense. And so typically what ends up happening is a lot of trial and error and manual effort to get these LLMs, almost like prompting and coaxing them. Sometimes they call it prompting and praying,
Mhm.
in a way to get them to answer questions that are relevant and provide the value that you're looking to provide to your customers.
So it's like I think of you have a new hire who has prior experience. They come in, they can do the job decently, but if they get the right training, they can then go in there and crush it because now they've got the right direction that's in line with what the business goals and objectives are, and they have the understanding and knowledge of what the business is able to provide as far as that service or solution.
That's exactly right. Any employee that's coming into your business will have a baseline understanding through their background, their education, their previous experience, but they still don't know the specifics of your business. And so
Mhm.
typically you put them through an onboarding plan, and you teach them like, here's how we do things here at this company. And that's essentially what we do, right? We help uh, get the LLM to a point where it quote unquote understand. I don't want to anthropomorphize these models, but
Mhm.
essentially, we get them to a point where they understand your business better than just an off the street chatbot assistant.
Right. So you're tailoring the solution. So you're coming in, you're tailoring the solution so that way it outputs exactly what they need because it could be customer facing, right? So like there's a lot at stake there that if you have something that's right 5 out of 8 times, that you lose those 3 customers potentially, right? Now this comes in, gets it right 8 out of 8 times, and now not only get right 8 out of 8 times, the 5 times it did get it right, it's even more optimized and efficient to where you could even have better experiences and generate even more revenue potentially because it's dialed in.
That's right. And maybe a year or so ago, having an 80% accurate system was still blowing people's minds, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
But the rate at which these models are developing and getting better and better, and every business leader has probably played around with ChatGPT, and so that experience of working with a very intelligent assistant then translates into expectations internally. Like, hey, I have my AI team, my developers building something similar. Why can't they get it to perform in a similar way that ChatGPT is performing? And what's interesting is the way that these LLM applications are built. Um, OpenAI and the other model providers are just giving you access to the model, but to get ChatGPT and Claude and all these, Perplexity and all these agents to perform in a way that you're experiencing them through chat interactions, there's a whole lot of post training and a lot of optimization that they do to actually get the performance way above than what the base model is capable of. And so, in essence, we're taking these techniques that the leading large language model labs use and productizing them and packaging them in a way that developers can reproduce those types of post-training optimizations for their applications that they're building internally.
What are some solutions that you've seen this really help a business with? Some end result.
Yeah, so one of our early customers is a fintech in the compliance automation space, and what they're doing is essentially helping auditors accelerate the process of reviewing financial statements before they go out. And obviously, there's a high risk of incurring significant fines if you are putting out incorrect financial statements as a public company. And one of their customers, just before signing an enterprise agreement, started to question how accurate their system was. And they didn't really have a great answer that was, that had the statistical rigor that these large companies are looking for. So they couldn't just say, "Oh yeah, it works," right? And the lived experience of the actual users at that customer was counter to that. And so when they came to us, their system was performing at around 50% accuracy with respect to what it's being asked to do and what it's actually delivering. And they realized building this kind of internal infrastructure to rigorously test and continuously evaluate and update their models so that it not only performs well today, but performs well into the future as it starts to encounter new data sets, new questions, and new problems, was a very heavy lift. And it wasn't very obvious in terms of how to build these evaluations. And so we came in and we enabled them with our product to actually monitor every single chat interaction, capture that, and then in a programmatic way assess hundreds, thousands of different interactions so that the outcome essentially was we got the performance up to 95% plus accuracy,
Wow.
where their customer felt comfortable signing an enterprise agreement.
Wow. That's a huge difference. So, I mean, it seems like with anything with compliance or HIPAA, that training that model is going to not only help you in the business, but it's going to protect you because of, potential legal action.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, avoiding fines is probably the biggest motivator out there for
Yeah,
companies that are building.
yeah, avoid fines and lawsuits. Like, yeah, no, that's cool. Who wasn't there a recent major finance house that said that they're using AI to write their prospectuses, and they found that it was able to eliminate the majority of errors that they were getting and cut the time from like 2 to 3 weeks with 4 people down to like a couple days or something.
Yeah, that's not uncommon. We see that over and over again, and that's a big part of the reason we started the company. Is
Hmm.
there's right now, if you look at the research out there, you'll see that large global companies are reaping the most of these benefits from AI. That's because
Yeah.
they have the resources, the infrastructure, and the skills to actually make the most of these systems. And if you're a medium-sized business or a smaller business and you don't have an army of AI engineers, it's difficult to get these models to perform in a consistent, predictable, and accurate way. So in a way, our product is for teams that want to make the most of these AI systems, but don't necessarily know what to tweak, when, and how. So we help answer those questions.
Got it. And then, so in those teams, how are you guys finding these opportunities that you guys can reach out to help solve their problems?
So we're a relatively early stage startup, and so we are still at the stage where we're um, taking advantage of warm intros through our network and through our accelerator network, as well as cold outreach, right? And some of the signals that we look for are typically a company announcing that they've launched some kind of AI assistant, gets good press, but then if you dig a little bit deeper and you go back a year or two, there have been a whole bunch of companies that launched an AI assistant and then it quietly disappeared, and they're not emphasizing it anymore. And that's probably because they realized that it wasn't performing well
Yeah.
enough, and so that became a reputational risk, right? So as soon as we see a company announcement that they're launching this type of assistant or that type of assistant, we approach them and we start asking questions like, okay, so when you are evaluating the quality um, of your assistant, how are you doing that? Are you kind of reading through hundreds and hundreds of chat interactions? Are you huddling together with subject matter experts and developers to basically like thumbs up or thumbs down these responses to nudge the model in the right direction? And if they're at that stage, that's where we come in and help them build that infrastructure to do it at scale and programmatic.
So how are you finding businesses that are at that stage?
Typically, we look for companies between 200 and 500 employees. And what I would say, like the lower end of mid market. So,
So, yeah, well,
established.
are you doing like a LinkedIn search, Sales
Oh,
Navigator? Are you got,
right.
you know,
Yeah.
a
So,
list? Uh-huh.
yes. So, LinkedIn, cold outreach, emails, and then what actually gets us the appointment is making cold calls. So, typically,
Smile and dial.
that's right. So typically, we will send a couple of messages out, and then if I see anybody engaging with our content, going to our website, clicking on links, reply, like not necessarily replying, but like opening my email over and over again, that's a great signal for me to pick up the phone and try to speak with them live.
Got it. You're not using any AI voice agents to do cold outreach yet?
No, so in my experience, they're not quite there yet. Um, Now with so what's interesting is this new development from Apple where there's like a concierge that's going to stop you from reaching the person and actually going to ask you like, hey, what are you calling about? That might be a great use case for voice AI agents that can give a really clear description of what you're calling about and make it personalized so that the person who's receiving the call is incentivized to pick up the phone, and then you can have a live connection. But I haven't seen anything like that in the market yet.
I've been trying to develop that myself actually because I'm using Vapey and I'm using NAN. So then I pull a list and I'm having it. It's still testing because I'm like, how is Vapey like? I have my AI receptionist for the company, one of the companies, and she's or it is. I keep personifying it. Like it answers the phone. People can't tell the difference. Like I'm just like, this is insane. And then it's just a set series of questions to get the pass off to me or to tell them, hey, we're not looking for that. Put us on your do not call list. Uh, like every SEO in Bangladesh calls us to tell us that they can white label our service or or paid media or whatever it may be. So I'm like, I don't want to talk to these guys. Or you get the call where it's just like, I have this, system where it's like, can you push one to be transferred? It's like you pick up the phone and no one's answering. So like I get to eliminate all that, which takes up a lot of noise out of the sales team's day. And now they're actually talking to people who are looking for something. So it's coming, right? Like it's super close. And then once you put video, like what's going to get crazy is you're going to have video doing, a person they think is real in a video doing the same thing. And you just be like, all right, we just live in a virtual reality every time we're on a device. Like, unless you're in front of me, I can't identify if you're real or not, which is going to be crazy.
Yeah, and there are a lot of really good use cases for these voice AI agents. Like I just saw an announcement from the CEO of Klarna where they trained a specialized agent that picks up the phone and interviews you as a customer,
Yeah.
and and basically gets your like you get to provide your feedback, your recommendations, whatever, and then that information goes directly to the product team. Like I think that's a tremendous use case for these voice assistants. But in terms of cold outreach, I think, and maybe I'm just old school, but I think people, um, they want you to respect their time. So when you're calling them, they want to know that you've done your homework and you have a reason to call. And when it's an automated AI dialer, people feel like, oh, that's somebody just pressed the easy button and is hoping that I'll pick up.
There's a way to train it to where it goes and aggregates the information of the person it's calling. So that way it's got a background that it can pass to you. Like, and this is what I'm looking at. Like, how do I make it so that way they know someone about, like, oh, on their profile they do this. Hey, I like that too, right? And then it creates
Yeah,
that connection, and then it gets to a point where it can transfer to you, so that like hunter gatherer, and a lot of sales teams do is have the person build the initial relationship and then transfer it off to the closer. Which your models could, if dialing it in, like you're saying, that could be a solution to where you go from getting it right half the time of someone picking up to like the majority, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 times.
yeah, definitely. I've been on the receiving end of really well written AI SDR emails.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I haven't been on the receiving end of any like good automated calls yet.
I don't think people are pushing it yet. It's coming though. No, so if someone's listening right now who's trying to scale, what's one piece of advice you wish you had earlier on?
In terms of scaling up our outreach,
Yeah, the business, like,
um, you know, it's a bit counterintuitive, but these days, because everyone basically has this like super powered ability to send out thousands of emails and make hundreds and hundreds of calls, um, and LinkedIn messages. What's counterintuitive and what's really been working for me is actually less is more. So coming up with a very, very, very well targeted list, uh, and doing my research up front. And I don't do it manually, right? I use all kinds of chat assistants. So I have built this kind of custom GPT with a series of prompts where I will feed it a couple of LinkedIn profiles, and I'll say, hey, I want to reach out to these people. Give me some reasons, and then that automatically gets pushed into a spreadsheet, which will then automatically draft a bunch of different emails that I can spot check and send out. So in terms of less is more, I've gone from trying to um,
spray
prospect
and pray.
and reach out to like 100 to 200 people a day to actually 15 to 20. But spending that time up front and doing that research has yielded much better results.
Yeah, yeah, personalization, customization, right? It's what it's always been, and being able to do that in mass. I mean, there is a way to do it in mass. There's tools. I use N8N a lot in building out that flow. You can essentially take what you're doing and amplify it. So
Yeah,
there's
I
there's
haven't
stuff.
played I haven't played around with it too much, but I
Yeah,
keep seeing it everywhere. So
yeah.
I guess I have to give it a shot.
Well, it just spiked like in, what are we in, May? Like if you look at Google Trends, you got like
Yeah.
N8N, you got, I think it's what, make something else, and it just goes whoop. Like, oh, people found out about this. Well, where can people connect with you and learn more about what you're doing?
Sure, yeah. Our website is www.getplum.ai. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll share my profile. And yeah, reach out if you're trying to figure out, how do I get this AI system to perform in a consistent, predictable, and accurate way, prevent hallucinations, prevent it from going off the rails and making the wrong recommendations. That's what we're here to do.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.